Tomasz Adamek versus Artur Szpilka. For me, this topped off a very, very bad week of boxing predictions. I said Eddie Chambers by knockout, Hopkins on points, Stieglitz to beat Sturm, and Adamek to beat Szpilka comfortably. The only sort of defence I'll give myself is I did say that I thought Adamek had faded. I thought he'd showed signs of wear and tear in his last few fights. I gave a few examples, and I said that I don't believe he'll be at his best. However, I did still think he'd have enough to beat Artur Szpilka. Now, similar to my post-fight video on Sturm Stieglitz, where I said that it was a good fight, but that I didn't believe either of them were sort of genuine top contenders, given their sort of ages and lack of freshness, in my opinion. I'm going to come up with a similar response for this fight. Yes, Artur Szpilka won the fight, but I don't think he's that great a prospect. I really don't. And I think, to my eyes, this is the end of Adamek, other than being used as an opponent for a sort of young fighter on the way up. Don't get me wrong, Adamek's still decent. He's not a journeyman. He's not just a gatekeeper. He's too good for that. And I know he's a big draw as well. But a genuine top 10 level heavyweight is going to beat Adamek on their way up. I think Glazkov beat him in their last fight. Szpilka beat him in this fight. And for me, both of those fights have been frustrating from an Adamek point of view, because in my opinion, Adamek should be winning those fights. He looks a better opponent. He looks like a better fighter to me. Szpilka, I've got concerns about him. He looked to me like Adamek caught him a few times. There was occasions he looked hurt in the fight. I thought towards the end of the fight he didn't finish off overly strongly, and this was a 10-rounder. In my eyes, even though Szpilka won, it added slightly more doubt, because I'm not the biggest fan of Bryant Jennings. I'm not completely convinced on Bryant Jennings. And I thought in that fight Jennings was more athletic than Szpilka. I thought Jennings hurt Szpilka by getting the stoppage, and I thought Jennings came on strong towards the end of the fight. It gave me questions about Szpilka's durability. It gave me questions about Szpilka's power. It gave me questions about Szpilka's stamina late on in the fight. And those questions still very much exist in my mind, because I think there were times Adamek was able to expose Szpilka defensively. There were times Adamek was able to hurt Szpilka. And I also think Szpilka started to fade towards the end of the fight. Adamek, as we know, is small. He's a heavyweight who relies on speed, which is starting to wane. I think he's 37 now, in the autumn of his career. Szpilka, we know Adamek's a tough man, very good chin. Szpilka was awkward, kept the fight at range, tried to use his jab. He's a bigger man. He caught Adamek quite a few times, didn't really seem to look like he was going to get the stoppage, in my opinion. Adamek seemed to be coming to terms, getting to grips with him towards the middle of the fight, but never really pressed on and never really took an advantage. So it's frustrating from that respect. In a similar way to the Glazkov fight, where I thought Adamek would come late and win the fight, but it never really happened. Szpilka, though, to my eyes, he's a bit one-dimensional. He's been fed on journeyman, got beaten by Bryant Jennings, who, as I say, I'm not convinced is all that. I thought Jennings looked much worse than Mike Perez in their fight, and I think the fact that Szpilka got beaten by Jennings and got stopped by Jennings, who isn't a massive puncher, caused concerns for me. So, do I see Szpilka as a genuine top 20 heavyweight? Probably not. I think there are a lot of guys out there who'd beat him. I don't think he's a big enough puncher. I know he's got a bit of awkwardness to him. I know he's got a big sort of straight punch, but I don't think he carries elite level power. It's easy to look like you carry power when you're fighting, Mike Moller or Jamil McCline, but it's less easy to look like you have power when you're fighting guys like Bryant Jennings and Tomasz Adamek, who is a better level of heavyweight. And to me, he's looked a bit weaker at that level. I would have him losing to most of the guys in the top 20 right now. I know he's young. I think he's only 24, 25. I know he doesn't have a sort of extensive amateur pedigree. I think he's a football hooligan turned boxer. So maybe I'm being a bit harsh on him, because I realise it's very early on in his career. But that being said, he's taking these big fights still as a young heavyweight, and you'd have to assume now in a fight against Glazkov, if that fight were to be made, which I can imagine would be a massive fight in Eastern Europe, you'd have to think that Glazkov would be able to outwork him, sort of have more, out-jab him, be a bit more technical than him, last better into the fight. And I just have concerns over Szpilka. With Adamek, I've never been 100% convinced with him as a heavyweight. He's just too small in my opinion. He's been someone who's got by on speed and sort of technical ability. That speed's starting to wane now at 37, and you do have to wonder whether this is very much the end of his career. Or, as I say, I'm not convinced on Szpilka. I thought he's a limited fighter, and I thought that Adamek would still have enough to see him off. Maybe Adamek versus Steve Cunningham, the third fight there. I know they're very close in their previous fights. Maybe that's a fight that would get both a payday. Maybe that's a fight people would like to see again. That's perhaps the route Adamek should go down, rather than fighting these heavy-handed young heavyweights right now. We know he's durable, we know he's fit, but he's starting to get exposed by guys like Szpilka who just aren't as good as him, really, which is always a good hint that it's time to call it a day. So yeah, this one capped off an awful streak of predictions for myself. Hopefully that means I'm going to be on good form for the Klitschko, Cleverly Bellew, Fury cards. We'll see. Thanks for watching. Keen to hear comments on this fight, how you saw it. Particularly keen to hear people's thoughts on Artur Szpilka. Have I got him wrong? Do you agree with me that getting beaten by Bryant Jennings and beating a faded Tomasz Adamek isn't overly good form, and he's going to struggle in big fights in the heavyweight division? Thanks for watching.